So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to section her out a horseshoe shaped section on the top. So depending on the technique you're choosing or how much perimeter you want to leave out is how high you want to go. For her, I want a lot of her disconnection to happen up through the top. So I'm actually going to be using her inside corner of her eyebrow as my guide. So if I rock my comb back diagonally, right here is where I'm going to want to part it. So on a client, you could almost consider this like on the parietal ridge, because I want to keep a nice strong perimeter. So I'm going to section this, like I said, horseshoe shaped, right around the top of her head. Keeping in mind that this is where all of my layering and the bulk of my technique will happen. So just making clean sections, which is not always that easy on a mannequin, as we all know. And this needs to come up a little bit higher on this side. So comb this up, nice and neat, making sure that it's even on both sides. And that's why I like to use a focal point. That's why I'm using the corner of her eyebrow, so I can make sure that both my sides are even. Hopefully your client has even eyebrows. And if not, you can always judge. Another great way of doing it is using your fingers on top of the ear. So where her ear sits, so she's about 4 fingers up. 4 fingers up, perfect. So I'm gonna section this top section completely away and make it nice and neat so that I don't have to worry about it. So this haircut is basically gonna be completed from top and bottom completely separately. So we're gonna work on her back. So I'm going to tilt her and move her around a little bit. Try doing it without my scissors in my hand. All right. And down in the center. Okay, so I'm going to be working in the back in the middle. And I'm going to create my perimeter length. So like I said, I'm looking for a really strong perimeter. So I'm actually going to be doing just a super blunt, straight down haircut. So you can choose whatever length you want for this. This is totally customizable. For me, I want it to be kind of like a mid-length bob, still absolutely above her shoulders, and I still want her to have fun and to play with it. So I'm making sure that I'm using the fine side of my comb when I'm combing, and if that means I gotta comb a few, you know, more than once, obviously, to get super clean sections, that's what I will do. And I'm holding this as close to her neck as I can get. So if you guys watched last week, Semina did a bob, and she used Beyond the Fringe, which is one of our classic Russ techniques. And with that technique, you get a beautiful beveled edge. So it's a super easy way to get a graduated bob really quick and easy. But I don't want that roundness. I want very sleek, very blunt look. So I'm gonna hold this, making sure my fingers are parallel with the ground. So I'm holding my fingers straight down. Medium tension. I don't want to over direct or pull too much. So medium tension, and then I am just going to literally take it off straight using my Delta blades. So I'm using my Rusk 5.5 inch Delta blades to create my perimeter. As you guys can see here, it is VG10 steel, which is super sharp and stays sharp for a long time. I've yet to have to sharpen my scissors. It has the 360 swivel thumb and it has the finger toggle, so it's very, very comfortable in your hands. And again, I'm gonna move this way and just creating a super blunt perimeter, but not holding with a lot of tension. Straight down, making sure my fingers are parallel facing the floor. Because if you rock your fingers one way or the other, that's when you're going to get extra length, or that's where you'll probably see like the little bits that'll hang out underneath. And I'm going to do this on both sides to right behind her ear. And the reason I'm choosing to do that, I just like to keep it nice and neat. And I'll always work on those sections first and then go to in front of the ear. And if you choose at this point that you want to, if you want to like leave the front a little bit longer, you can totally do that. So I'm going to keep tilting her. Actually, I'm going to probably tilt her the other way, because you always want to be standing directly behind the section that you're cutting. So again, combing this straight down, holding with medium tension, making sure my fingers are facing the floor, and just taking off her length. If her hair was really thick, you could even do subsections. If necessary, you could have subdivided them just to make sure. And again, going to right behind her ear. If you want to twist the front out of the way. And with my camera angle, it's not that easy to get directly behind my section. Okay. But I want to make sure that it's nice and even. Hopefully you guys can see that. And I'm going to tilt her up a little bit. Whoops. Okay. So again, combing right down. Now that I've done the back, I will move to the sides and just continue my length. And I'm going to keep this the same length underneath the whole way around. That's one side, and then I will work on her other side. Again, just taking it straight off. I try not to cut in too big of sections to keep it as even as possible. So I take small sections at a time just to ensure that I'm getting a very clean, blunt line. And just comb her down. And you may need to adjust, and that's okay. Lots of times everybody has a longer side. So I'm just going to comb that down the whole way, making sure that it's even. And then we will move along to the top. Michigan, Louisiana, South Dakota, Chicago. Lots of people here today, which is excellent. Perfect, that feels better. Okay, so I'm actually going to take her hair now. Tighten her up a little bit. And I'm going to pin it out of the way because I'm now going to work on the top section. So tighten both of that. So I'm going to just take my clip, comb this stuff back because I don't want to cut into this. Now, if the hair you found underneath was thicker or anything like that, you could absolutely break it up with some texture if you wanted to break up the solid line. Lots of times I'll do my detail work like that after it's dry if I want to see it. Okay, so I got that clipped out of the way because I want to treat this almost as two separate things. There we go. I think I got this. All right, so we're gonna take the top out. So we're gonna let this fall, and I'm actually going to comb the hair forward towards the face. So we're gonna cover her up a little bit. And we're gonna be working with triangle shaped sections. And if you guys have seen this technique before, or remember it if you guys have been with Rusk for a while, we're actually gonna do the technique called on the bias, which is one of my favorites. Always has been. I'm gonna lower her down a little bit too. For creating like disconnected layers, but connecting them with texture. It's just beautiful. It gives a beautiful shape. So starting at the back, I'm going to create my first triangle, just combing this all out really smoothly. And I'm going to create my triangle. So you can go either way. We're going to be holding these triangles opposite. So it's going to go short to long, short to long, short to long. So depending on how many triangles you do and how much hair they have, all kind of depends on which way you hold your fingers and where you start your widest triangle. So for her, I'm going to start back here. This is going to be my wide section. So I'll show you guys so you guys can see. So this is going to be my wide going to my narrow. I'll show you when I got her sectioned a little bit too. So wide going to narrow. So basically you're going to make a diagonal line on her head. So this is going to be her narrow point into her wide point. Comb that up and twist it into itself. And then I'm going to do the opposite. So this is her tiny triangle going into wide now over here. And you want to make sure that these triangles are balanced. And your sections are clean. So you want about the same amount in all the triangles. And going from her wide point. And depending on the thickness, how many layers you want to see, you can do less or more triangles. I'm going to create 4. And this one needs to be a little bit thicker. Don't be afraid to adjust if you need to make sure that each triangle has the right amount of hair. You don't want a super skinny one and then a super thick one, because then your layers won't be as balanced. And twisting that into itself. So I'm going to show you guys now. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask, but I will tilt her now so you guys can see. Too fast. Mannequin stand doesn't like me today. So as you can see, those are your triangles going back and forth. Twist her up. And try to tighten her. Okay, so we're going to start in the back, and you always want to make sure that your fingers are going to be pointing to the narrow part. So this is my wide side of my triangle, this is my narrow. So I'm actually going to turn her around. She's going to get turned a little bit. I'm just going to go back and forth in order to get this technique. So we're going to start from back here. I'm going to tilt her towards me a little bit so you guys can see. So I'm going to pick up this section, comb it straight in the center. So you want to keep your fingers in the center of the section. Hold it straight up. And then you're going to hold your fingers like this. So you're going to go on an angle and take off your length. So keep in mind that this is going to be your shortest section. So hold it down to see where you're going to want that length to sit. Again, me and my mannequin stand are officially in a fight today. So I'm thinking around about there. So when I first comb up, I hold it straight in the section that I want it to be in, and then I raise my elbow, pointing my fingers to the narrow part and taking the length off. And then I will twist that into itself because I'm going to come back to it again when I want to break it up with texture. Spin her around because now my narrow part is here. So I'm going to hold this up, like I said, completely in the center, and then I'm going to lift my elbow. So up, and I'm not taking a guide with me, but if you want to, you can pick up a piece and just visually see. So this one I'm actually going to take a tiny bit shorter. And then twist. Twisting helps to keep your sections really clean, making sure your sections are super nice and damp. That also helps. I'm going to twist this back into itself now. And I'm going to flip her around again. And this triangle, this is my wide side, this is my narrow side. Comb all the hair straight up. And if I want to, this is my narrow side on this side, hold up a piece so I can visually see roughly about how short I want to go, and then lift my elbow and take it straight off. So as you can see, I'm creating a lot of short and long layers. And I'm going to twist her around for her last one. can find her thing. There we go. Twist her all the way around. And like I said, you guys can do more triangles if you want. The more triangles you do, the more layers you're going to create. The less triangles you do, the less layers you're going to create. Again, and with the front as well, keep in mind that obviously this is the last piece that we're doing. It's going to be in her fringe area. So we have to think about what we want that to look like. So if she's going to be wearing more of a side fringe, like I have, then we want to make sure that we finish off the short piece going into the long piece. Short hair pushes and supports long. So if this is how she's going to want to sweep her hair, this is how we're going to want to do it. So I'm going to comb her straight up, and then I'm going to lift my elbow. And then I'm going to twist that back down. Now, I'm going to want to break this up with some texture. And I'm actually going to use my Alpha Blades today. So the Alpha Blade has 7 teeth. So everybody typically looks at this and immediately thinks this is going to take the most amount of hair. It actually takes the least. Because the teeth are so separated, it creates a lot of fun texture in the hair. It's really, really good for fine hair because it helps create lift and support in through the top to get volume. It's also really great on curly hair because where the teeth are separated, when you are actually texturizing curly hair, you're not breaking the S shape of the curl as much. So the Alpha Blades, which was our very first texturizing blade, are absolutely fantastic for those things. For her, I want to create some super fun layers. This mannequin actually has fairly fine hair for what mannequins typically are. So I want to make sure, hi Semina. So I want to make sure that I'm giving great texture, and I want to make sure that I'm giving support to her fine hair. Again, our texturizers all have the 360 swivel thumb and the finger toggle, so it's super comfortable to use. So with the on the bias technique, when I go to texturize now, I want to be able to incorporate all the short and all the long that I just created. So I'm going to hold my fingers up and stop about halfway. I don't want to now twist my fingers or turn my fingers left or right. I don't want to do that because then I'm creating the texture to move this way. I want to break up and I want to connect the short and the long pieces. So I'm going to hold it straight up about halfway, and I'm going to close and remove in a bricklaying fashion. So I'm going back and forth to break up the ends. Once that section is texturized, I'm going to comb it back. That way I'm keeping my sections really clean and neat, and I know what I've already texturized, so I will not be over texturizing. Again, hold the section straight up, and you guys can see there's a lot more weight in through here. So if you need to split the triangle in half because the triangle is larger, that's okay too. You want to make sure that you're getting the weight removed so that you're not sitting anything too heavy. Back and forth. Comb that piece back, so I split that triangle. So I'll go back in and pick up the narrow point, holding it straight up about halfway down and closing and removing. And now I can comb that back. Again, this section is thicker. As we get towards the top of the head, you're going to notice that. So I'm going to split that section in half and make sure that I'm breaking up the whole way out. Come back and then pick up my triangle from over here because this was the wide one. about halfway and close and remove. And then comb this back. And our last section. And this is her fringe area, which is really thick, so I definitely want to make sure I'm separating that so I can really break it up. And going back and forth with my alpha blades, really break up those edges. You're looking to create a city skyline effect in the hair. Perfect. So now she's texturized, and just like that, the haircut is done. So with the on the bias technique, you're going to be creating, like I said, you're going back and forth creating short and long layers. So there's definitely pieces that I will tweak afterwards. I really like the finish that these layers give and the volume it gives through the top. So if there are longer pieces that hang down over my final look, I'll decide on whether I want to maybe keep them and incorporate it as kind of like a fun piece, or I may want to take it off depending. So this is her final look. She's going to wear this way. And yeah, there's a couple pieces that I will, longer pieces hanging over that I will adjust, but she has a super fun layer in through here. She's got a nice fringe area now that she can incorporate. And this is a great way that, a great technique she can actually let air dry if she wants, because we all know that less is more lately. So letting her hair air dry, she'll get a nice wave in through there, and she'll have lots of short and long layers to support it. I am going to dry and style her, and then I will put her finished look up on the Rusk Facebook page, so definitely look back for that. I'm gonna let you know that she was shampooed, and this is what I would be sending my clients home with, is the pomegranate Rusk Pure mix in the pomegranate. So that is going to actually help her shampoo, or help her color story last for up to 30 shampoos, which is amazing, especially for the vibrant red tones. We want to make them last as long as we possibly can. So with the quinoa and the pomegranate actually helps to go in and bond, the antioxidants bond to the color molecule and actually helps it last longer, which is amazing. The scent is beautiful, pomegranate's gorgeous, and it's going to protect her color. So I'm going to shampoo and condition her, or I did shampoo and condition her, sorry, with that. And I'm going to be styling her using a Rusk Classic wired. I want to show a lot of definition. I want to show a lot of her texture. So I'm going to be using this to style her hair. And I'm going to be also using my Rusk Pure Flat Iron. So I'm going to be using my Rusk Thermal Shine Spray to give lots of shine and to show off her beautiful color. So I'm super excited to style her and get her finished look posted for you guys so you guys can see. I hope that this helped, or you took one thing even away from this class. That's basically what they're for, is that you guys can pick and choose and go back and look at techniques that you like. That's what the great part is, that it's saved on the Rusk page so that you guys can always come back and have a look and refer to them, which is awesome. It's kind of like having a DVD of the new age.